The country knows George H.W. Bush as the 41st president, but to Jenna Bush Hager and her family, he's lovingly known as Gampy. Jenna has penned a new book inspired by him and all her grandparents titled Everything Beautiful in Its Time. And Jenna is joining me now. Jenna, it is so good to see you.
Oh, good to see you. We're usually in the same building, passing each other in the hall, but I'm happy to see you virtually.
I know. I'm glad you're back in the studio. I'm still working from home, but it did give me some time to read your book.
Oh.
Which I have to say, Jenna, is a really special book. The title alone, it's almost like taking a deep breath.
Well, Everything Beautiful in Its Time is, of course, part of a Bible verse from Ecclesiastes 3:11. And I read that verse at my grandmother Jenna's funeral. And it was comforting to me because it really was about waiting to heal. That time will heal all, and that you can find beauty even in brokenheartedness. You know, even when you feel like you miss somebody so much, when you think of them, there is beauty to that. And so this book is, of course, about losing 3 of my remaining grandparents in 13 months and what I learned from that, but also what I learned from them.
Did writing this book kind of help you heal and process that a little bit easier?
Yes. I mean, definitely. In fact, it started really just as journal entries and letters to them that they would never read, that had, not with the idea of a book being attached to it, just as therapy for me, as a way for me to put my grief onto paper, into words, so that it was a little bit less in my heart, and I think any of us that have experienced grief, but also love, can use letter writing or journal writing as a way to process things. I think during this time where people feel sad and lost and worried, I have thought like, oh my gosh, what would they say? Like if we could sit at a dinner table and have a conversation, I wonder what they would say about this time. And I loved having conversations with them because they were such good listeners. And I miss that. I mean, I miss being able to sit around a table with them and listen and be heard.
You also talk about your maternal grandparents, and they kind of had this life outside of the spotlight. But something that your grandmother said, Jenna, who you're named after, even this little simple thing of when something drops, say happy days.
Yes.
It kind of teaches you not to sweat the small stuff.
Oh, it was I loved their house. Like I loved the way both of my grandparents' houses felt. The way that you felt like you could be a kid without getting shamed or screamed at. People will always say to my sister Barbara and me, they're like, how come y'all are so normal? And I think that's a compliment. I mean, we take it as a compliment, but really it's because, people see us that we've had this political life, but really our day-to-day was so much more defined by Harold and Jenna Welch, who are from West Texas, Midland, Texas. They wanted a house full of children and they could only have my mom. And they wanted to make sure that nobody ever felt bad for just being, kids spilling things or dropping things. And so they would yell happy days when something stressful would happen. And I know I need to do that in my own home because I feel like we should just be enjoying these times together instead of worried about, little things.
You have mentioned as long as you're alive, you're going to make sure that your grandparents' legacy lives on. Do you almost feel like that's a responsibility, a duty that you need to carry on?
I mean, I think it's just because I love them so much, and I feel, the fact that I got to have all these mini relationships with them, that they got to live to see me have children and meet my children, that my children remember them, Great Gampy and Great Ganny, that they ask about them. I love that I get to tell stories about them because I love them so much. And that's really it. For others who feel like they've lost something in this year, which I think people have lost a lot, to know that there will be another side of grief. I wish somebody had told me that. You're going to feel one day like you're going to laugh when you think about them and be comforted in their memories. And that's how I feel now.
So you're doing a virtual book tour.
I sure am.
What can we expect? What does that look like? Tell us about it.
They're going to be conversations. I hope that it's going to be fun and hilarious and sweet. There might be moments of tears because we've already cried a bucket. But I think, I hate to not be there in person. I know, like you, I'm charged by people's energy, but I am so excited because the fact that we can even do this, and have great conversations electronically and virtually, makes me so happy.
Jenna's book, Everything Beautiful in Its Time, is available everywhere now. So do yourself a favor and grab yourself a copy. Jenna, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you.